Welcome to episode 1 of the Lost and Loud podcast. I'm so excited to finally be filming the first episode. I had to wait like 2-3 weeks for this sofa to come, and it finally came today, and I was just so excited. I wasn't gonna film the first episode till tomorrow, but I just couldn't go to bed. I just really wanted to film this, and this episode is definitely gonna be a bit more of an introductory episode. So pretty much podcasting has been one of my favorite things for a very long time. I've always loved talking mukbangs. I've always loved true crime podcasts. I've always loved really long get ready with me's to kind of have on when I'm eating food, when I'm cooking, when I'm cleaning, because I just love the background noise. I love just hearing people talk and wanting to listen to different kinds of people say different kinds of things, you know? It's always very interesting to hear people's different viewpoints on life. There are so many people in the world who come from so many different backgrounds and have different life experiences. Whether it's your normal everyday person, whether it's an influencer, whether it's a celebrity even. I just love, like, there's actually a podcast, I don't know the name off the top of my head, but it literally has like, the channel has like 8 subscribers, I think, or I don't know how many subscribers, but they get like maybe 10-50 views a video, and I love watching it because I just love what they talk about, and I don't know, it's something I've always wanted to do. I'm very passionate with certain topics, and I always just kind of have a lot to say. I live stream on Patreon quite a bit, and I always go on these little rambles and little vents, and even me with like my best friends, we always have such amazing conversation. Of course, I'm gonna do my best to try not to edit this too much, so I have my water here to keep my throat moisturized, or what's the right word? Moist. Ugh, I know a lot of people do not like that word, but your girl has to keep her vocal cords moist. Oh my god, that sounds horrible. That sounds horrible, but I'm just so glad I have like a cozy area to do this on. And my setup is a freaking disaster. I kind of just came up with the idea of Lost and Loud because it's like, I'm 24 years old, right? And I was just thinking of my future, as we all do, and I kind of have come to the conclusion that the past few years of my life, and even in general, I've had no idea what I'm doing. Completely lost. And I was just thinking, podcast names, I want it to be very general. I don't want it to be a niche. At first I was thinking more of like just a true crime podcast, but then I was just like, that just restricts me so much. Maybe some episodes we can talk about true crime, some we could talk about relationships, friendships, current events in the world. I am too old for drama and tea, and I really don't want to talk about like tea and drama and like influencer drama. That's not my thing. Personally, I'm not really even on social media that much, if I'm being honest. I used to be, but as I've gotten older, it definitely better for my mental health to not be on it constantly, and just better for my social life for sure. But I still consume it every night. Like I scroll before bed, don't get me wrong. Like I am just like everybody else with social media. It's just through my daytime, my spare time throughout the day, I try not to. I was just thinking to myself, pretty lost in life. I guess it was kind of a down day, but then I was also thinking of like a podcast situation. I literally could not figure out a podcast name for the life of me. So I went to good old ChatGPT and I asked, what are some podcast names I could use as like a single 24-year-old girl who's lost in life? And it said lost and found. But I just thought to myself, that's not really accurate, because I might be a little lost in life, but there's no way that I have found out anything about my life or myself yet. I'm still discovering so much. Don't get me wrong. I have for sure improved in my life since I was like 16, but your girl's 24 now. And she still has a lot of work to do. And then I was just thinking, I'm like, what if the podcast is just me talking about life, talking about experiences? And it hit me. I'm like, oh, you know how people are like, oh, lost and found. What about lost and loud? L and L, pretty catchy, you know? And it's true because I'm lost in life, but I want to be vocal about it. I feel that there is a trend of people wanting to make other people think that they have their ish together. But that's not always the case. Whether it's a day in my life, where out of all the days of the week you choose to record, everybody chooses to record their most productive day. But the reality of the situation is not every single day is going to be productive. That's just not the way life is. And I think there's this stigma and this expectation that every single day has to be perfect, has to be productive. You have to work out, you have to cook at home, you have to work, you have to see friends, family, socialize all in one day, every single day. But unfortunately, that's not the case for a lot of people. And I think even most people. Now, don't get me wrong. It's good to do self-care. It's good to be productive. It's good to do things that make you happy. It's good to keep yourself busy. Because isolating yourself as someone that has done that in her past, it's not healthy either. But it's okay to take a breather. It's okay to have one day where you just kind of take the pressure off, where you're just like, you know what, I'm just gonna have a coffee on my day off, I'm gonna read, I'm gonna relax, because that's very good for your system. It's okay to have off days. I feel like especially as a woman, because with our hormone cycles, especially because you never know for certain medical conditions and stuff, and those hormonal fluctuations really affect your day-to-day energy and all these different things. But there's not this facade on social media or just media in general, even like celebrity culture, where you have to be perfect and go. And even the clean girl aesthetic. Like, dude, sometimes you get greasy hair. You do not have to be clean girl aesthetic every single day of your life. And I think with that pressure comes with people feeling bad about themselves. And I want to talk about that. I feel like it's like a closed book that nobody wants to open. And everybody's suffering because people are feeling insecure and feel like they're not doing enough with their life. But it's like, let's open the book, let's have a conversation, and let's talk about it. So we might be lost, but we're loud and we're just going to talk about things. And that was kind of my journey with discovering a whole podcast thing. Thank you, ChatGPT. Cheers. Not even. They just told me a really general thing like lost and found, like when somebody loses their clothes. But I was like, yo, I might be lost, but I'm definitely not found. I am lost, but I'm just going to talk about being lost. Maybe, you know, it'd be really cool if in a couple years with this podcast, I actually find myself. Can you imagine? I actually find myself and I switch the name to Lost and Found. Cheers to that, besties. In future episodes, this is probably going to consist of coffee, but your girl needs water right now because I have a raging headache. And oh my gosh, when this sofa literally came today, do you understand the stress of thinking it might not fit in the door? Are you kidding? The guys that delivered it into the house brought it down the stairs and I was like, okay, this is happening. And it hit me how wide the sofa was. And all I could think about was, oh my God, what do I do if it does not fit through the door? Is my podcast area just literally gonna have to be in the hallway for everybody to see and hear? And let me tell you right now, I don't want my family to hear. I'm filming this at 1 a.m. because I want privacy. We're 20 minutes in. I'm having a blast. This is so fun. Like, I just feel like I'm not even necessarily doing this to even have it become something. Like, this is just relaxing for me and just fun. And I'm just so excited that we can get started. I don't have the most professional setup. It's pretty doo-doo compared to all the other ones with rich people, but I'm using like my 7-year-old camera I've had since like I graduated high school. I'm using this Yeti microphone that, thank God, the only reason why I have 2 of these Yeti microphones is because when I bought that first one, I'm pretty sure it was like a buy one, get one 50% off. And I was like, you know what? You never know when you need a spare microphone. I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to get it and we'll see what happens. And it has literally just been sitting in my equipment area for like 3 years. And it finally has a purpose in life. And with that being said, this podcast is brought to you by my Patreon. If you do want to support this podcast and help me keep it going and hopefully be able to upgrade equipment in the future to have a better camera, better lighting, even maybe have a second seat for a guest or something, be able to get a new camera lens for a wider angle. If you guys want to go join my Patreon, it'll be linked down below. So you can join strictly just to help keep the podcast going. You get multiple videos a week that don't get uploaded onto my main YouTube channel. If you even know what that is, if you're a new viewer, hi, hello, you're meeting me for the first time. I have another channel where I make like bit life videos and gaming videos. But if you're not interested in that, you can just join to help keep the podcast going. But basically at the lowest tier is like $5 a month, US dollars, right? Patrons will be able to get early access to the podcast every week. There's a $5 tier and a $10 tier, and then there's a $20 tier just as extra support. So it's fully up to you if you want to join. But if you do want to help keep this podcast going. It would really mean a lot if you guys go join my Patreon as the podcast continues, as me having Patreon continues. It's only been like 2 months of me doing Patreon. Like, there's going to be more perks, more tiers as I kind of get the hang of it a bit more. But as we know, it's episode 1, so I can really only do so much. I do want to talk about some things, but this is, like I said, more of an introductory type of episode 1. But yeah, so go check that out if you want. There's also more perks, like there's weekly live streams, there's 3 videos a week that go there that don't go on my main YouTube channel, so it's a whole thing. There's also like my whole process with, if you're not familiar with my situation, I had a really big mole on my face, on my nose actually, from that I was born with, and I had that removed recently. And so that whole surgery process and healing process and all the stuff that went wrong is on the Patreon as well. So if you guys want to go join, it is linked down below. And another thing is, I definitely want to do some like series on this podcast where we can do like dating advice, relationship advice, friendship advice, life advice for all my other people that are also lost, okay? And we're just trying to figure out life as we go, because as I'm getting older, I'm realizing there's no right and wrong way to live life. You just have to live in a way that brings you peace. And I think that that is the best way to get through it. Because if you're doing things that make you unhappy and make you feel not at peace in life, like, sweetie, the cortisol levels in your body, that is not what you need. That's just gonna make things worse. You gotta find balance and find a way to do both. To be happy, but also be peaceful, and also be able to support yourself, obviously, and get through things in your day-to-day necessities and tasks and obligations. And as long as you can honestly say that you're doing the best you can, that sounds pretty good to me. So there's also my email down below if you guys want to submit anything like that. Any crazy stories, any advice you want, any true crime you want me to look into for a future episode, go email me at lostandloudpod@gmail.com. Again, the email will be in the description. I'll also have it in the pinned comment down below. And yeah, I'm just so excited to start this journey. So with that like big introduction, I want to talk about something. It's something that's been on my mind for quite a while. And it has to do with just media and social media in general, especially regarding women. And I've noticed that there's kind of a trend in the media, but more so social media world, where we tend to bring up somebody really quick, like maybe in the span of 2 weeks, honestly. And I think the first time where things really took a change in the whole influencer social media world was the rise of Charli D'Amelio and Addison Rae and the Hype House. All of a sudden they have to be a star citizen and perfect and never make a mistake, even though they're extremely young as well. I don't care what anybody says, 16 to 18 is young, and when you get to my age, you will realize that my frontal lobe still is not fully developed, let alone a 16-year-old's. But it's the quick rise, and then all of a sudden you have the outlier that starts the trend of, I'm kind of getting a bad vibe from them. And then all of a sudden it is this huge crash. From that huge and quick up, all of a sudden it's a crash that is just as fast, and it goes to literally tearing someone down, ruining their life even. And the sad thing is the way people justify it is they say, well, what did they expect? They posted on social media, they asked for it. That is not freaking true. And I'm extremely passionate about this because I'm coming from the perspective of somebody that was a watcher of YouTube my whole life, since I was like freaking 8 years old, and a content creator. Very small content creator, but definitely got a taste of what it's like to be a content creator. Did I reach Charli D'Amelio level? No, but that's besides the point. The whole point is posting on social media just because it's public does not mean you are consenting to harassment and to be extremely targeted negatively and be doxxed and all these different things. Do you know how many people right now in this second are uploading videos to Instagram Reels, YouTube, and TikTok? Millions, billions even, who knows, but that number is so high. And do you want to know the amount of people that actually go viral, that actually are able to turn it into a career? This, a fraction of it. So most people that post do not blow up and do not get the influencer or celebrity lifestyle. So to say that somebody's asking to be brought up and brought down and harassed and bullied and doxxed and all these things and lose brand deals and all these different things just because they posted on social media, please. Let's take the real facts, and the fact is that the people that made her famous are the people that watched. There has to be some accountability on the viewer end for who you make popular, and that ties me into the topic that I want to talk about, Gypsy Rose Blanchard, because oh my gosh, what even is happening in the world right now? People turned an abuse victim that unalived their mother and went to prison and served time in prison for like a decade and got out of prison into a celebrity like influencer. I cannot even fathom this. And now the same thing is happening to Gypsy that happens to every other woman on social media that gets big. They bring you up, they tear you down just as hard and fast. And now it's starting to slowly happen with Gypsy Rose. And it's been an insane, wild ride to watch. And it's insane. You see people going up to Gypsy Rose, being like, I'm on your side, Team Gypsy. As if there's a team to be on. As if her mother is still here. As if she didn't go to prison. Now, she is an abuse victim, of course. But why are people trying to make the lives of real people like a reality star? They're treating, especially women, it's a lot of the time this happens to women. And I don't know if maybe we're more susceptible to it because maybe we can be a bit emotional. I'm not sure. But you see people treating Gypsy Rose as if she's a star and too hot to handle. It flabbergasts me. Somebody like went up to her for like a selfie. And it's like, bro, like she's just a person that made a mistake in life and she talks about how she regrets it. And then you have the people that are like, oh, she's a narcissist. Okay, even if that's true, you're the one making her famous because you're the one talking about her. Me doing this right now isn't helping because guess what? I'm talking about her. And so are thousands and millions of other people. So the viewer needs to have accountability because it's like, oh, that person doesn't deserve to be famous. You're the one that made them famous. I'm sorry, but it's true. Hate watching and hate commenting and hate liking makes someone just as famous. A view is a view. A comment is a comment. A like is a like. Especially on TikTok because US creators get paid by views, not even ads. Views. So a hate view, you are putting money in their bank account. It just blows my mind because it's one thing seeing it happen in like influencer culture and fame culture. Okay, that's one thing. That's kind of its own little world. But to see it be translated into true crime, convicted felons that are also abuse survivors and their situation was very not black and white. It was a very gray situation. And to see people bring her up, like she was on that, what was it, Good Morning America or something. And the interviewer was like, oh, you did what you had to do. And Gypsy was like, oh no, what I did was wrong. And they said, oh, what do you mean it was wrong? No, it wasn't. Something like that. Don't quote me on it. And Gypsy had to be like, no, what I did was wrong. Like, why are people glorifying it? It shouldn't be either. You shouldn't be attacking her, but you also shouldn't glorify it. Just let the girl live her life now. She served her time and like leave her alone. But the thing is they released things like The Act, the TV show. That brought so much traffic and people just talking about her, and she was famous in prison. That blows my mind. Now it's all coming crashing down. You see people saying, oh, why are we glorifying Gypsy Rose? She's giving bad vibes. Did you see her in that interview? The way she touches her husband? It's like, dude, why'd you make her famous in the first place? Nobody can make themselves famous. Fame comes from external people and things giving this person attention. Like, you can't make yourself famous. It's from external people that do and attention. And the problem is they're putting that perfect idol citizen status onto her when she literally went to prison as an abuse survivor. Her mother got her teeth pulled out. Gypsy Rose's mother got her teeth pulled out. To all the people that say Gypsy Rose was in on the whole thing with her mom, do you really think somebody that is in on it would allow their teeth to be pulled out? Her mom had her salivary glands removed, something like that, okay? And that led to her teeth rotting in her mouth. You have to remember, yo, she was a kid, okay? And stop viewing things with this black and white ideation. Sometimes things hover in the middle, and sometimes something isn't right or wrong. It just is. That's just what happened. And frankly, none of us get to have an opinion on it. Sorry, but who are we? We probably don't know everything. There's probably things in the cases that are like sealed. We're not their family. Why do we feel entitled to have an opinion on this? It's this parasocial relationship where you think that you're better than someone else because they did something bad and you didn't, so that means you get to be like, you're bad. But I'm sorry, but that's not true. And why are we doing it to Gypsy Rose? I don't get it. I don't understand. I get people might be fascinated by the situation, but this is a real person who went through a lot and suffered real consequences and did real crimes. It's not too hot to handle. This is not The Bachelor. This is not a time where you make a fan account or make a hate account or snark page or something. It's real people, and still that logic should go into influencers and TikTokers. And the thing is things really did change once TikTok became a thing. I feel like YouTube used to be more just your regular person that kind of just grew community, and it was more personal. Because the thing is YouTube algorithm is becoming more of a thing now. But before, it used to be a trending page and stuff, and YouTube had recommended content, of course. That's how you found new people. More so, when you post on YouTube, you're posting to the people that subscribe to you. And same with Instagram. People would follow you, and in order for something to show up on your feed, you'd have to follow them. But the thing is with TikTok is it brought the new thing with an algorithm that based on things you like, it shows you more. So it's a much, much less personal relationship with the creators and the subscribers or followers or fans, whatever you want to call it. And I think that's the problem when I think about it, because it feels like you are watching The Bachelor because it's so impersonal. It's just really hard because it's a problem when people are too attached to a creator, but it's also a problem when they're so detached that they feel like it's reality TV. And I'll never forget, I don't know if it was a movie or if it was on Criminal Minds. It might have been a movie, but it's like from the early 2000s. I can't remember the name. If somebody knows the name, put it in the comments. The movie was about a serial killer, but the way he killed was very different than others. So he would live stream a person in like a trap. Think of Jigsaw. Very similar to that. How the guy wasn't actually the one doing the killing. He put them in a situation where they would die if XYZ happened. So the guy would live stream and he would say, at 20 million viewers, they'll die. And you want to know what happens? Human nature, apparently. People start to watch. And because there's that disconnect where it doesn't feel personal, I'm just watching a live stream. I'm not actually the one doing this. What's my view to someone else's? And then people share. And guess what? 20 million viewers came and the person died. And that's how the person was a serial killer. They did that multiple times to prove that the bystander effect is dangerous, where people just sit back and watch. And they don't realize that that's just as big of a problem. And I think things like that, now that I think about it, are probably the case, because people feel like they're just watching TikTok, they're just watching YouTube, they're not contributing. I admit, me to even talking about this is probably going to contribute to the problem. And the world we live in is crazy. Things are just so high tech and fast, and the dopamine rush and serotonin rush. That's why I do like the new wave of podcasting, because it is adding a new layer into letting things be a bit slower. Let's try and talk rather than just so mindlessly consume, if that makes sense. That's pretty much what I just wanted to talk about for this first episode. It's been on my mind. And yeah, I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts in the comments. Of course, constructive criticism is always welcome. But if there's any obnoxiously rude comments, like I You will be blocked. I protect my peace over here. This is my comfy corner and no one's ruining it. But this really was a lot of fun for me. This felt therapeutic, honestly. Like, I feel like I'm on a therapist's sofa and I'm just talking to some people, getting some stuff off my chest and talking about things I'm interested in. And so if you guys do want to help keep this channel and podcast going, I would really appreciate it if you go join my Patreon. On the $5 tier, you'll be able to get early access to the podcast every week. So the goal is to upload every Friday. And on Patreon, you'll get it a week early, and then a week later, YouTube will get it. And so if you can't afford to join my Patreon, just simply watching the podcast here on this channel, subscribing, liking, commenting, and sharing is plenty as well. So if you want to do that too, that'd be great. But yeah, thank you guys for watching episode 1, and I'll see you next week for episode 2.